take me through this scenario. This is what I hear in my private practice a lot. People will say, I'm broken. And I was broken, maybe my whole adolescence. And then I became a young adult and I met this person and they helped fix me or they made me whole. And then that's how they view themselves, still as broken, and then relying on this other person to have made them whole. And I always find this to be a really tricky thing to navigate, helping people through. Tell me, what do you do with that? And do you hear that as well?
I hear that as well. I do hear that as well. And I mean, it's not entirely wrong. So I'm always looking for these both ands, because there are just so many of those in our relationships. So it's a both and. Somebody who has that paradigm is not wrong, because it is true that if somebody comes out of a traumatic childhood with some kind of attachment challenges, right? Some kind of insecure attachment of some kind, a healthy, loving adult relationship will literally change attachment styles. There's been research that shows we can go from insecurely attached through securely attached through the power of a healthy, intimate partnership. So that is possible. But the shadowy aspect that you and I are both in touch with is it's such a handing over of power and agency to somebody else. It's sort of, it's oftentimes what happens from a painful childhood is we carry shame. And so then to be loved feels like I'm only okay in your eyes. And love from somebody else can't outpace shame. So it may kind of take the edge off of shame for a while, but then when the stuff hits the fan and our partner can't be there for us, our partner can't validate us, then we kind of circle back to that core of shame. So there's always, I think, the need to work on our own tending to our childhood wounds is always there. We can have a loving partner and still need to do our own tending to our childhood wounds. Because if we're not playing it out with our partner, we're going to play it out with our kids.
Yeah.
There's not really a way of getting around that sense of that horrible, wretched, shame-loaded fear that I'm broken. That's a reckoning that's very, very personal,
I do know. So what I'm wondering is, if I'm listening to this right now and I'm not in therapy, right? And maybe there's some stuff going on. Do you feel like you need to be in therapy to really love bravely and do self-discovery? Can you do that on your own? How do you guide people on this?
Right. Well, I'm definitely pro-therapy, and I think we do have a ways to go around not just reducing stigma around therapy, but also increasing availability of therapy, because like we're saying, intimate partnership and parenting are just places where old stuff gets kicked up. And so maybe somebody was fine through adolescence, through early adulthood, but then they get married or make a significant commitment and the stuff gets awakened, or have a child and old traumatic stuff gets awakened. So definitely a plug and a shout out for therapy. But yeah, I think there are relational self-awareness practices that people can do outside of therapy. And one is noticing how we'll go from, it's, the Viktor Frankl, there's this beautiful Viktor Frankl quote that's about the space between stimulus and response. That there's a space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies all of human freedom. So the idea that a frustrating thing happens out there, that's the stimulus. And then my response is oftentimes informed by my sort of constellation of wounds and triggers and tender spots. So if I can notice that, right, sort of catch and notice that I'm doing that thing again. I'm doing that thing where I tell myself the story that I'm broken, the story that everyone's going to leave me in the end, the story that I mess everything up, and starting to notice that that's actually a story. Just naming that that's a story and that I'm prone to that story, or I'm at risk of that story because of my past, gives us that chance to pause, nice big hand on the heart, some deep breaths, attending to all of that stir inside. And as we do that, it gives us so many more options for how to respond in a more effective way, right? Because when we just are reactive, we're either going to rage or we're going to turtle, shrink down, pull back, shut down. And when we can kind of catch it and bring ourselves some self-compassion, we notice other options that are available to us.